Is Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley the best wrestling feud of the year? Initially, I would like to say no, it's not, because when you associate the best wrestling feud of the year, you often put that to main event matches for world championships and things that are booked, with prominence across shows for long periods of time. And you definitely don't associate it with triple threat feuds. Triple threat feuds are something we rarely see in professional wrestling because they're really, really hard to get right. Getting a heel versus babyface feud is as easy as it could possibly be because heroes versus villains have existed since the beginning of storytelling. But having a hero versus a villain versus someone who's sort of a hero but also has a little bit of villainous qualities, that's not something you see as often and not as universal as just a straight up hero versus babyface. So or babyface versus heel rather. So those kinds of feuds aren't seen as often in professional wrestling, and when they are, they're incredibly hard to get right. We've seen great triple threat matches, but to extend that over a long period of time is something very, very difficult to do. Another one that I think was worked really well was back in 2004, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Chris Benoit, because you were able to play with the dynamics and the history that Triple H and Shawn Michaels had, and then incorporating Benoit into that, who is, I mean, between the three of them, the newest face in WWE and the person who is on the rise at the moment versus the other two stars who are already established. It created a really nice dynamic. And we're sort of seeing something similar here with Becky versus Bayley versus Lyra, where you have two people with a lot of history, that being Becky and Bayley, part of the Four Horsewomen, history in NXT, history on the main roster, and now incorporating Lyra, who is at this point an established star on Raw, but is still very much a rookie compared to these other women and someone who is on the rise in WWE. So the dynamic that we are seeing in this feud is very similar to what we saw in that feud for the World Heavyweight Championship back in 2004. So the dynamic of it really, really works. And something else that works about it is there's been fantastic promo exchanges. Becky's really been carrying a lot of the promo game, but Lyra and Bayley have really been holding their end. I do sort of, when they cut promos on Raw, I always know Becky's going to hit it out of the park. Lyra and Bayley less so. Lyra especially, I get a little nervous when she's speaking because I don't know if she's going to really be able to land a lot of the insults that she's been scripted to write. But so far, she's done phenomenally well. And I call this feud Lyra versus Bayley versus Becky, but really it's mainly Becky versus Lyra with Bayley thrown in there. But even though some of the main moments of the feud have been Becky and Lyra, Bayley is a big contributing factor as well, so that's why I threw her in here. So promo game has been really strong. Some of my favorite segments, not in ring but on the mic of the year, have come from Becky Lynch in this heel run as Intercontinental Champion and even in the chase to the IC Championship. And when it comes to matches, all of their matches are phenomenal. I'm going to look back through to see what I gave some of their matches. I know that the reason I'm recording this video is because I just watched Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley from Monday Night Raw, their 2 out of 3 falls match, and I really, really liked that match. It started off a little bit slow, but after the second commercial break, they really, really pushed it to high gear, and they had a phenomenal match. I gave that 4.25 stars. Their match at Evolution, the triple threat, Becky versus Lyra versus Bayley, I gave 4.75 stars. If you want my full thoughts on that, my Evolution coverage video is up on this channel. But that's in match of the year contention for me. Bayley and Lyra had a match on the the July 1st episode of Raw that was okay. It wasn't great. It ended in a double DQ finish, so nothing to rave about there. But I think that Becky and Bayley had a really good match on TV as well. I think that was after Money in the Bank. I probably should have found this before. And yeah, they did. On the June 23rd episode of Raw, they had what I gave a 4-star match, which is, not great, but very, very good. Then before that, you have Becky versus Lyra at Money in the Bank. I give that 4.5 stars. I thought that was a friggin' phenomenal match. Better, in my mind, than their match at Backlash, which was still a great match, 4.25 stars. And then you go before that, you go WrestleMania, when it was Lyra and Bayley as a tag team, then replaced by Lyra and Becky, and then them losing the titles to the Judgment Day after WrestleMania. It's a feud that's been going on for a couple months now, but all of it has been really, really, really effective. There's been a lot of great stuff that they're doing this year, and it's never really lost its pace. It's never lost momentum. It started off fun as a fun mid-card match at WrestleMania. Becky came back. It made the feud a little bit more exciting. She turned heel on Lyra. It got even more intriguing. They had a great match at Backlash. Bayley returned, added a new dynamic, an even better match at Money in the Bank, a freaking phenomenal match at Evolution. And now we're going to get Lyra versus Becky. I mean, this year it's their third match, but overall it's probably their fourth or fifth, and that's going to probably be great too. So this really, really is, in my mind, in contention for feud of the year. And what I do on my phone in my notes app is I go through and I just record a bunch of stuff from wrestling this year. I just, so at the end of the year, when I go through and I do my lists for best wrestlers, best matches, best pay-per-views, I have all that information here and I can sort of look through it and make my decisions from there. So I was looking through what I have for best feuds. I'm marking down some of the best feuds this year, and I was trying to compare Becky versus Lyra versus Bayley to some of the other feuds I have on this list, and I genuinely think it might outclass what else I have on here. So let's go through some of them. Let's start with WWE, because that's what we're comparing it to. The first one I have is Seth versus Punk versus Roman, starting at the Rumble, leading past Elimination Chamber and into WrestleMania. This is a similar one to the Becky versus Lyra versus Bayley, because this is really CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, in brackets, versus Roman Reigns. And I think they had one really, really great match, but I don't necessarily think that the quality of their feud was as consistently great as this one is. And I think by the time the match happened, some people were sick of seeing CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, and especially after WrestleMania, when we thought we were going to be getting that again, and we still might, if Seth hadn't gotten injured, we might have still gotten that. So I don't think that really outclasses our triple threat feud. Same with Cody versus Kevin. Cody versus Kevin at the beginning of the year. What a fantastic feud. That's probably on this list. The most hotly contested one is Cody versus Kevin. Because they just did so much great stuff. The reason that I don't put Cody versus Kevin above our women's triple threat feud is because I don't think there was really as much drama in that feud. There was a lot of fun stuff, and Kevin Owens doing some of the best character work he's done in years in WWE, but you never really believed he was going to win the title. I really hoped he did, but I never really believed he did. So in terms of like true drama, never really existed. Whereas when I was watching the match at Evolution, the triple threat match, I bought on so many near falls from both Becky, Bayley, and Lyra, because I thought any of them could walk away with the title, even though I had it in my mind that, Becky was going to be the one to do it. So I don't think that can really hold up. I also have Rhea versus Io on there. They had the triple threat match with Bianca at Mania. They had a fantastic match at Evolution. I think their match at Evolution was better than any match in the Lyra versus Bayley versus Becky saga. But I think though it's really just those two matches. In terms of a build and in terms of drama or moments elsewhere, there wasn't really a whole lot. So I think it outclasses that. And that's what I have for WWE feuds of the year so far. And I think it's easily the best WWE feud of the year. If we're jumping across to another promotion and we're looking at AEW, the three I have down are the ones that just sort of climaxed it all in Texas. Adam Page versus John Moxley, Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, and Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné. And while I felt those were all really great builds, ending in really great matches, I don't think they necessarily spawn the amount of time, or span the amount of time rather, that Becky versus Lyra versus Bayley does. And I don't think they had as many unique twists and turns in them. And also, I don't think any of those matches were as good as the triple threat at Evolution. So, a short, not necessarily short, in Adam Page versus John Moxley was like 2 months. But those sort of couple months build leading to a match, I don't even think were as successful as the women's IC triple threat feud. So I can't really give it there. Outside of North America, Sabre versus Shuri from in Japan. They had a match at Sareism and then a match at Stardom the Conversion. Both of them are fantastic matches, but I don't really know a lot about the feud outside of that. I don't even really know if there was a feud outside of those two matches, like if they did promos or segments together. I just sort of watch the matches. I'm not really a week to week coverage guy for some of the Japanese Joshi independent stuff. So I can't really speak to that. Two phenomenal matches, but in terms of an actual feud, I don't really know if it can hold up. And then going over to New Japan, Despe El Desperado versus Jun Kasai. Similarly, I probably would like that feud a lot more if I was watching on a weekly basis. I mean, they had the light tube, whatever, million light tubes death match or something like that. That was a really, really good match, and that was getting a lot of hype online. A lot of people like that. And then also at the I'm reading the title right now and I'm totally gonna butcher this, Barb Sasuke Produce Crazy Fest. They had a three-way match: Desperado versus Jun Kasai versus Masashi Takeda, probably Takeda, Masashi Takeda. I don't really remember his name. I do remember the match, and it was a very, very good match. And like I said, if I was a Japanese viewer, I'd probably rate that feud a little bit higher. But I'm just not really engaging with the content on a week to week basis. Another one, Tomohiro Ishii versus Drilla Maloney. Like, that's been a good feud, but not really a great feud, so I don't think that can even really hold a candle. The biggest competitor outside of WWE is Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hirooki Goto. And when it comes to New Japan, I watch all of the big matches and all of the pay-per-views, but I can't really say that I watch all of like the road twos, or yeah, I don't watch all those tag matches that have Goto teaming with Despe and Yo and Master Wato and Yoshihashi and Zack Sabre Jr. teaming up with TMDK. I don't necessarily watch all of those. I've really only watched, I think, 4 of their matches this year. There was their 3 singles matches, the first at New Beginning, the second one at Resurgence, and the most recent at Tanahashi Jam. 1 and 3, great, incredible matches. The second one I thought lacked a little bit of zhuzh. I don't really know. And they had a really great match. It was, I think, Zack and Ryohei Oiwa teaming with, or going against Goto, and it might have been Despe. I want to find that exact match because I was really blown away. No, sorry, it was Zack and Kosei Fujita versus Hirooki Goto and Despe from Road to New Beginning on the 22nd of January. Great match there, really, really great match. But I feel like, being an American viewer, I don't watch every single one, and especially the promos they cut afterwards when they're doing like the backstage interview segments, I don't really watch those either. So I can't really get engaged on an emotional level or be entertained like I am with the women's triple threat IC feud. So that's my list. That's my list of best feuds of the year so far. And I think Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley tops that list. And I don't think there's a lot of competition. Like I said, the only competition really would be Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hirooki Goto and Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. But I don't think those feuds necessarily stand up to the longevity that the women's triple threat feud has had. And the sheer amount of greatness we've gotten from it. We've gotten 4 great matches from the feud at this point. Tons of really entertaining TV segments. Becky Lynch's return, the Becky Lynch's heel turn, Bayley's return. So many really cool moments. It's really made Raw interesting. And Raw's not been the best show this year. There's been a lot of fun stuff on it, but that feud has definitely been a highlight. And it stands out for me as feud of the year. When we get to the end of the year and I am making the videos on what was the feud of the year, will it still be at the top? That I'm not sure about, because I think that it could probably get one upped. I don't think it would be necessarily too hard to one up it. I think that it's a great TV feud and it's had some really great pay-per-view matches, but I don't necessarily know if it is a like transcendence feud that we'll be talking about forever, like Toni Storm versus Mariah May, or Omega versus Paige, or Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. I don't think it's quite to that level. So if we get a feud that is, has the same amount of focus, the same amount of intriguing moments, great matches, but it's in a main event position. The stakes are higher. The matches are given more gravitas than what we're seeing for the women's IC title. I think something could upset it as the year goes on. But honestly, even though we've had a lot of great matches this year and a lot of great TV moments, we haven't really had a lot of great feuds in my mind. And one of the reasons for that is because John Cena's been on top of WWE and Jon Moxley's been on top of AEW. 2 title reigns, which were really, really lacking and really not good. Jon Moxley's title reign is now over and Adam Page is in the driver's seat, so maybe we will get some more interesting stuff with him. And Cody's facing Cena at SummerSlam, and I honestly don't know who's going to win that match. If Cody wins, great. Then we can continue the year in a more positive direction and get some much more interesting feuds out of the main event scene. But right now, we just haven't really been given a lot. And that's why I think I love the women's IC triple threat feud so much, is because in this time when the main event of, the 2 most prominent companies in North America, the companies I'm most a fan of, are failing, this women's mid-card feud is really elevating itself off the back of those failures. And that's why I love it so much. I want to know if you guys love it as much as I do. I don't know if I'm really overhyping how good this is, and I would love for you guys to let me know down in the comments if I'm just completely blowing this out of the water and it's just a mid-card feud no one will remember next year, or if it really is great. And if I'm not pushing it far enough to say this will be the best feud of the year and this will be remembered for years down the line to come. Let me know in the comments. And while you're there, let me know if there's any feud that you prefer over this feud. Maybe something I didn't mention in this video that I should go out of my way to take a look at. While you're there, leaving a like, leaving a subscribe, turning on notifications really, really, really helps a new channel like mine out and really helps me to grow. With all that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I'm trying to really get back into the swing of things of recording videos more consistently, pushing out content, and not always like pay-per-view reviews, sometimes just like little opinion pieces like this. So if you like what we saw in this video, please let me know. All that being said, once again, thank you very much for watching. I have been Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling, and I will see you next time.